Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me this week is Ryan Hunter, Chief Revenue Officer of Spherex. Thank you very much for joining me today, Ryan.
Hey, it's a pleasure, David. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You could also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. Ryan, I always like to start with a little bit of background. I like to know each individual's journey to the industry. So how did you get your start in cannabis?
Oh, wow. Well, I guess I'll start by saying cannabis has been a part of my life for more than 30 years, so quite a long time. I started my career in tech, had about a 20-year career in tech, and then the last 10 years I've been in the cannabis industry. And originally I'd finished a startup. We sold it, had a successful exit, and I was trying to figure out what to do next. And a fella approached me who had created a new technology for cannabis oil extraction, and we had some mutual contacts, and I came on board, spent about a year with him, helping him to commercialize that equipment, and then was on my way from there.
So I hear a lot of people coming from the food industry. I hear a lot of people coming from the tech industry. What is it about a tech pedigree that sets you up for success in cannabis?
Oh my word. I don't know if there is really a through line there. I think my personal experience, I had a lot of work that I do with startups, and cannabis is inherently a startup. The whole industry is a startup. And so I think that might be the common thread, is that attraction, maybe risk acceptance or risk seeking, you could say. But I would say that's probably the one common theme. But for me, I live in Colorado. I've been living here for the last 20 years, and we were one of the first states to legalize. And as I said, I've had a relationship with cannabis for going back into my early 20s, late teens, and it was just fascinating to me, and I was in.
Are you a risk taker?
I think most people would agree with that statement. Yeah.
Okay. One thing that comes with startups is and success is a lot of patience. How do you sort of balance that patience for letting things develop with the, hey, let's get moving on this so that way we can kind of take advantage of the market?
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. I don't know if necessarily patience would be the most applicable quality. I think more agility. Okay. I think you have to certainly be tolerant of setbacks. So the patience comes in there. It feels like a lot of times you're either 2 steps forward, 1 step back at best, if not 1 step forward and 2 back. And so you do have to have patience in that regard, just really resilient in tolerating those setbacks, but agility and being able to adapt to a very rapidly changing environment on almost every level.
What's been your biggest setback in cannabis so far?
Well, for me personally, I did a stint where I was the CEO of a cannabis-themed NFT community when those were a big thing. And when I took the job, I said to my wife, there's a good chance that this will end in tears. And I was right. It did. But again, I was sort of fascinated by what was happening there, and it seemed like a convergence of tech and cannabis. So my background's and experience, but that was a rough one for sure. But other than that, I think mostly it's been kind of continuing to progressively move forward. I've had some really tremendous opportunities, learned a ton along the way, and I've had some really amazing life experiences that I'll always treasure. So on the whole, it's been positive.
Looking at the entire cannabis market in Colorado, how would you describe the state of the industry?
Yeah, I think no secret. We're one of the oldest ones out there. It's sort of ongoing consolidation, sort of winnowing out participants that aren't able to continue in their business and either they'll have a soft landing, a hard landing, or everything in between there. So we're still seeing that, different market participants, fewer market participants, acquisitions, those sorts of things. So that's sort of the stage where we're in. The green rush is over. So you really are in the phase where business discipline, that business acumen is essential. And I think the companies that can marry good business practices with an authentic relationship with cannabis and the cannabis consumer are ultimately going to win over time. And we're certainly seeing that play out in Colorado.
Well, the green rush is over, but the Green Wednesday is tomorrow. So what are your expectations
Sure
for it? What are your expectations for the, I guess, quote unquote holiday? And even though this is going to publish after the fact, as you ramp up for it, what are your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I still think we'll see healthy retail sales on Green Wednesday. It seems to be as families come together, especially in more recent years where alcohol is a lot less of a factor. Cannabis is coming in, whether that's in beverages or the one I love is the cousin walk, where you go for the walk before Thanksgiving dinner with the cousin and have a dog walker session along the way. So I think it'll still be a thing. It's hard to. I think over the last several years, the cannabis holidays have been somewhat less impactful than they used to be because of normalization. People are buying cannabis all year round and in many different states now, so it's not as exotic as it once was. But I think it'll still be successful. We're not doing a ton specifically ourselves. We don't. We're a wholesaler. We have a couple different brands. We sell products to retailers, so it's very much more of a retail-oriented program. But that being said, I haven't had a lot of requests from retailers to support significant initiatives like we may have seen in years past. So I think there'll still be some discounting and that sort of thing, but maybe not on the scale as there used to be.
You just got a lot going on with that sentence. The dog walker for the cousin walk on Green Wednesday.
Yeah.
I think that's where my brother went wrong last year, is that he forgot the cousin. He brought everything else. No.
Oh yeah. That's essential. You got to have a collaborator. You need a partner in crime.
Where is the wholesale business in your perspective, and what are your thoughts on other territories like in Michigan that have put a pretty significant tax on wholesale business? What are your thoughts on some of those initiatives?
Yeah, again, I think the wholesale business in general, to survive when you don't have the misallocation of supply and demand, right? We are sort of in a fluctuating market where some years supply will be high, driving prices down. Other years supply low, prices go up, microeconomics. And so we manage that and navigate that the best that we can. And we're able to do that successfully because we have a lot of operational discipline. We have a lot of focus on the unit economics at every stage in our production process. So we can be very thoughtful about the prices that we're willing to pay. We also go out of our way to have very strong, long-lasting relationships, both with the growers who supply us, as well as the retailers who are ultimately our customers, as well as the shoppers who buy the product. So we focus on those things, and that really reduces a lot of those fluctuations, or at least enables us to reduce the fluctuations. From a regulatory perspective, Colorado, like in some markets that I've been involved in, the regulators can be very adversarial. They sort of view their jobs as being a roadblock to the industry. Now, certainly Colorado has many regulations that continue to make me scratch my head, and I wish that they were different, but that's sort of what we signed up for. But then you have situations like Michigan and other markets where I think the legislators and the leaders in those states look at the cannabis industry as a piggy bank, and I think they overestimate the profitability of these businesses, or maybe they're thinking about it when the industry launched in that market, when margins were much wider than they are now. But 25% wholesale tax, that's a death sentence. There's no way that that will be successful.
Well, and at what point do some of these kitschy targets, like trying to raise $420 million, at what point do those kitschy targets become just a blatant slap in the face?
Well, I'm not a big believer in that sort of thing. Like, to me, that's a yellow flag. I've had years of experience of fundraising for venture capital and growth capital, and I would imagine whoever's on the other side of that table is not going to take that kind of a thing too seriously. So I tend to stay away from that. But yeah, you'll find bubbles everywhere. I think the outsized valuations, the market tends to have a way of taking care of those things over time.
Yeah, sorry, too strong. Gotcha. A lot of coffee today. Um, while I was prepping for this podcast, I read frequently the idea of this disciplined production process. Can you
Yeah.
describe, in your opinion, what does disciplined production look like?
Yeah, I mean, for us, where it's a marriage of two things. Our operations are, to the greatest extent that we can, are highly automated. We also implement a lot of telemetry, so we're analyzing the performance of our processes at every stage. So we're basically taking biomass, cannabis, extracting it using supercritical CO2. Then it goes through a couple of steps of refinement and then into distillation. And ultimately that winds up in a vapor cartridge of some type or another. And so at every stage in that process, we have analytics that we're monitoring on an ongoing basis. And we evaluate those based against historical performance to see if we have a process that is, an outlier, for example. And then we also look at the unit economics. So we know what our cost is when it's in the bulk plant form, to when it's in a crude oil form, to when it's in a winterized oil form, to when it's in a formulated distillate form. And we know at every stage what those dollar amounts are. So we can say, okay, Mr. Farmer, you want us to pay, I mean, nothing close to this, but like, let's say $500 a pound, which would be a price from 10 years ago. But let's say the farmer says that, and I go, well, to make my profit that I need to make, I can only pay you $200. Again, much higher than we're paying, but to give you an example of how that drives that conversation. And then on the retail side, again, we offer products at a certain price point, and those are designed to generate a certain amount of profit for our business. And so when we have those conversations with the retailer, we're very intentional about what that price point is. So that's where the discipline comes in. You have that information. The discipline comes in managing effectively and consistently with that information, putting it to work.
Has it always been a lot of automation at Spherex?
Yeah, I've been around for only 3 years, but the company was founded by a PhD, so it's always been a very science oriented company, very very quantitative oriented company. Our president comes from a finance background, so he's sort of president slash CFO. Our COO comes from a research background. He's a chemical engineer. In addition to my time in tech, I spent 4 years on Wall Street as a financial analyst covering technology stocks. So we all bring that kind of quantitative mindset to our work.
I mean, it seems like that's almost a best case scenario in terms of how you guys all like to work, rather than having people of different disciplines sort of butting heads when it comes to one being a little bit more analytical than the other.
Yeah, I think that's right. We all really complement one another. We have a really wonderful culture. I think it's very collaborative, very solution oriented. Not a lot of finger pointing. More, hey, what happened? Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's figure it out. Let's try not to do it again, and keep moving forward. But yeah, I think we all complement each other very well, and we have a tremendous team of people that we get to work with every day too.
How big is the team now?
We're a little over 30 people.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how do you guys manage turnover? Do you have people that stick around a long time?
Yeah, we have almost no turnover. I've been there for 3 years. And when I joined, I had up sales and marketing as the chief revenue officer. On my team, everyone was there before I joined, except for a couple of the junior members. As we've grown, we've had to add staff, but the core team is still there. Same thing on the production side. Our VP of marketing, my colleague, started out as a brand ambassador doing pop ups at dispensaries. Our director of production, she started out working on the production line filling cartridges. So we have folks that stick around for a long time and grow with the organization.
And I know that the industry tends to hold on to people or have a more impassioned workforce. Is there anything that you guys do internally that helps you hang on to people rather than just like, hey, you all want to be here anyways, right?
No, yeah, we definitely don't take it for granted. I think we have a very competitive compensation plan. We have very generous benefits. So that's a good starting point. But really, it's the culture. I mean, I really lean into helping my team develop their skills and abilities and helping them to grow in the roles that they're in. On the operations side, we have two lab managers, for example, that just did a week long continuing education course using I think it's gas chromatography, some analysis equipment, but it was a PhD level continuing education program. So we try to provide some additional opportunity in that way that I think is meaningful. But really, I think it's the day to day culture, how we interact with one another. The communication is authentic, and when inevitably shit happens, we all dig in and figure it out, and without finger pointing, very solution oriented, and we a lot of trust and good rapport there. I think especially as people have other experiences in the industry and then come to work with us, they really, including myself in that statement, they really appreciate the difference between what they found at other places.
Well, I mean, it's the management style, right? If you're leading from the top down and you're putting your head down too to get through it rather than just, kicking it downhill, I mean, it goes a long
Yeah.
way in terms of employee morale.
Absolutely. Every single member of our leadership team would be the first to pick up a broom if it's needed. We're not, none of us are afraid to get our hands and arms dirty, and we'll jump in if we're behind schedule on something to make up the deficit.
So, what are some of those regs that make you scratch your head?
Oh, some of them have gotten better over the years. I built a 10-acre cannabis farm out in the middle of nowhere, and the regulations made us have cameras every 10 yards on the fence line. So we had to install a solar array to power the cameras. I'll put myself out there a little bit. One of the things that's frustrating me right now is, with the quality assurance labs, we submit all of our products for testing, and they test them for microbials, heavy metals, pesticides, and that's all great. We welcome that, right? We want people to be safe and not to encounter harm. But those levels of what's acceptable, they get published. We don't know where those numbers come from. They may be too low, they may be too high. We don't know. Then each lab is left to determine, well, how do I test for that? And they each have to calibrate their own equipment to say, well, if I test this sample, it's a 10. If I take it to another lab, they may have calibrated their equipment differently, and it's a 5. And we have a state lab that our state government operates under the Colorado Department of Health. And they have their own assessment, but they don't publish that reference. All they have to do is say, hey, labs, calibrate against this reference set of parameters so that we have uniform testing. And so we all have to adhere to these standards, but they're somewhat arbitrary. And the state doesn't do a good job of helping the labs to calibrate their equipment so that everybody's singing from the same songbook. So that's my pet one recently. That one's, as you can see, has got me a little bit frustrated.
Well, I understand the frustration. That seems like a relatively easy fix.
I agree with you, Dave, but here's the thing. Usually when we think that, some lawyer has gotten involved along the way. So I don't know if maybe the state feels like they'd be exposed to some sort of liability if they say this is a 5 and that's a 10. Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. But over the years, I tend when something seems like it should be easy, probably a lawyer has gotten involved and made it more difficult.
In my experience, I'd say that's fair as well. Um, Generally speaking, has the situation with labs and lab shopping and accuracy, has it overall improved, or is it still pretty nebulous?
And I'm speaking only for Colorado. This is something that varies tremendously from state to state. But the problem that I just described is a problem in every state. If you're measuring any other sort of substance in any other sort of industry, the U.S. federal government publishes standards, right? There is a literal hunk of metal in a vault, I believe, in France that is a kilogram. That's the reference kilogram. And everybody can say, okay, compared to that, this is actually a kilogram. We don't have that in our industry. So every single lab calibrates their equipment to whatever standard that they think is right. So we've had about more than a decade now of experience in Colorado. So I would say, yeah, we've had some labs that have been eliminated because they were bad actors. And, I'm not going to point fingers or name names, but there still may be some shenanigans going on even in Colorado. We work with labs that we know are going to do a good job and get us quality results. The last thing that we want is somebody getting hurt or getting ill from one of our products. The second to last thing that we want right after that is getting in trouble with our regulators. So I'd much rather send a sample into a lab that I know is going to be accurate than send it somewhere else where I know I might get an all clear when it's really not all clear. So those things still happen, but even honest people, you got to help them stay honest by helping them all to adhere to a good standard.
Yeah, I know that we've mentioned it before on the podcast as well, but working with bad actors just seems so short-sighted. And talking about managing risk, that's one that is a little bit riskier and unnecessary than others.
I would agree, but again, this industry attracts people like myself who tend to have higher tolerances for risk, and they may be willing to play that game. And short-sighted, long-sighted is qualitative. So it's what everybody thinks.
That's one I wanted to circle back. What were the NFTs?
The Crypto Cannabis Club was our collection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was very fascinated by NFTs, and by the time I finally understood what they were, it was like the bubble burst. And I was like, no, yeah. I just got it. I just bought this little toast NFT that had guacamole on it. It's worth money.
Yeah. I still have a bunch of them. Maybe someday it'll come back around. Still people are paying hundreds of dollars for Beanie Babies. So, you never know. But yeah, it was a wild time for sure.
Oh man, I still have family with it.
I think Justin Bieber, he paid $1 million for a Bored Ape NFT. That was when I thought, okay, this might be the top.
Yeah. That's fair. And I do have a few family members with that box of Beanie Baby investment in the basement still. So we'll see it come around.
The Princess Diana one, man. You still hundreds of dollars for that
one. One of the things talking about coming into the holiday season is that, the desire or sort of the allure of kind of offering deep discounts coming into the holidays. What are your thoughts on discounting, or are you more of a, keeping prices steady for the product lineup?
Yeah, I mean, so it's really, that's more of a retail decision, and some retailers, that's their standard practice. They offer a discount, and 1 month it'll be on this brand, and the next month it'll be on that brand, and they attract a certain kind of clientele that is really attracted to that model. Um, and ultimately, what that is designed to do is move products off of the shelves. We have a different philosophy for that. We will do that if the retailer that we're working with, that's their thing. We'll participate in that kind of program, but we're doing it less and less and less and less. Very very small percentage, and it's been really dropping off over time because instead of discounting, we've replaced that with effective marketing programs that drive sell through. Right, we're moving those products off the shelves in a different way. So we do a lot of events. We, in October, had a big skate party that was open to the general public, but we really also focus on inviting industry members. We had about 600 people. We gathered about 300 blankets and backpacks for a philanthropy that works with people who are experiencing homelessness. And we do a number of programs like that throughout the year. We have a big effort to get out in the field and meet with bud tenders, educate them, show them love in authentic ways. We bring them treats and goodies and swag. So we're doing a lot of things that a traditional consumer products company would do. Again, you'd see it in any other category outside of cannabis. You don't see it a lot in cannabis. There's very few companies that execute the type of brand program that we offer. And that's really how we would prefer to drive the sell through. Our pricing is dictated by the economics of the commodity that we're working with for the most part. And then we have two distinct brands, one that we offer at a low price. That's a value tier brand and has some different product features than a higher priced brand that we have. So that's really how we approach it. The retailers, you'll find a range of strategies out there, from what I mentioned to somebody that has everyday low price as their kind of mindset. But that's how I tend to look at things for our company.
Why is it important to Spherix to be a good corporate citizen?
Well, I think the origin of that is just the people that work there. I mean, that's the nature of the folks that work there. We care about one another. We care about our business partners. We care about consumers, and you can keep extending that out to the entire world. So we appreciate the privilege and the opportunity that we have to do what we're doing, and we think that obligates us to share the wealth and make sure that we're taking care of the community that we live in and work in. I think it's, just our ethics are aligned that way more than anything.
As that front line or that gatekeeper, what are the things that work best for you when keeping bud tenders happy with the brand?
Oh man, you nailed it. I mean, they are the gatekeeper, and really there's no other industry. You're not going to go into a 7-Eleven and say, hey, I'd like to get a liter of Pepsi, and the person behind the counter isn't going to go, no, I really think you want a liter of Coke. Coke is way better, right? It just doesn't happen. So that's the most important thing that we do. And so we have a team that is on a regular schedule going out to every single location that carries our products. They're making sure that that store has a good merchandising display, and then they meet with the bud tenders and make sure that they're educated on the different aspects of our brands and products. And then we show them love in a number of different ways. We'll bring them lunch, bring them donuts, bring them hats and hoodies and t-shirts and things like that. And then we have events throughout the year. We have this Halloween skate party has now become an annual tradition. We have a happy hour at a bowling alley coming up next month in December. We have done go-kart races. We've done top golf outings. So, we've done a bunch of different things to just build community and build those relationships with the people in the industry. They're where it starts and ends. Absolutely.
Any interest venturing outside of Colorado?
Yeah, when before I came on board, Spherix was operating in some other markets. They were in Oklahoma for a bit, Canada as well. My own background, I spent 4 years as the chief operating officer for Willie Nelson's cannabis company And I took that brand from 2 states to 8 states. So I've had a lot of experience working in other markets. We've been really focused on the opportunity in Colorado. We've had tremendous growth over the last few years. And I think we are now starting to reach the point where we feel like the next stage of growth for us is going to take us outside of Colorado. Nothing firm that I'm able to announce today, but we're definitely having ongoing conversations. And I wouldn't surprise me if by this time next year we were either in another market or well on our way to doing that.
New York?
Maybe we'll see. I mean, the economics are interesting. It's definitely one of those states where low supply is leading to high prices and wide margins. I've been around long enough. I know that that doesn't last forever, and when it flips in a hurry. But that's probably the one I would say that is from a just financial perspective the most attractive. They need to get more dispensaries online. They still don't have enough retail shops there yet. But again, that kind of goes with the supply side of things as well. But very attractive market.
What was what did you take from your experience? It's Willie's Reserve, right?
Yeah, Willie's Reserve. That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. What did you take from your experience with Willie's Reserve and bring with you to Spherix?
Well, I mean, I think this brand program, the team that I got to work with there, Elizabeth Hogan was our chief brand officer. Nicole Kenneback was our head of field marketing, and Jeff Willis was our VP of marketing there. And I learned a lot of what we're doing at Spherix by working with them. As I said, my background was in tech, not in consumer products. So a lot of this strategy, I have a deep gratitude for what I learned there. The things that I described to you really informed by that experience.
Was Spherix open to that agility that you brought with you? Did they have the same sort of ability to move quickly to take advantage of a situation?
I came on board in October of 2022, and I had not been working in the Colorado market for a few years, even though I'd been living here. So I did a lot of secret shopping. And what at that time you may remember, inflation was high, gas prices were really high, and in the shops when I was talking to the bud tenders, I'd ask them about the least expensive vape cart that they had, and they said, "Well, I'll sell you this, but hang on to your receipt because they leak a lot. We get a lot of them back." And so I went back to the team at Spherix. So I think we have an opportunity here because they had really good relationships with hardware purveyors that made highly reliable hardware. And we were able to come up with a very high quality but low cost option. And we decided to call it X Vape. So originally we were just sort of internally calling it Project X or Brand X. So I proposed the idea, and that was probably mid to late October, and it was on shelves by mid-December. So almost less than 2 months later. And across my entire career, I've had in tech, I was in product management, product marketing. I've launched dozens of products globally. By far and away, that was the fastest from concept to fruition of anything I've ever done. So, I mean, that's probably the best example.
I mean, that is an incredible product launch. And do you know, so what hardware providers do you work with?
Yeah, we work exclusively with a company called Finished Goods.
Okay.
And they've been great partners for us. We have a standard 510 thread count, 1 gram vapor cartridge that we go through. Oh my word. I mean, we're probably making upwards of 50,000 of those a week. And then we also have an all-in-one device, like a little disposable 1 gram that they produce. That's been very, very successful for us. And then I think one of the greatest things about the relationship, we spent about a year doing R&D collaboratively with them on a 4 gram. I think I probably have one sitting around here somewhere. So here's our 1 gram all-in-one under the Spherix brand. And then this is a 4 gram device. And again, most of the other products that were on the market have problems with leaking, or by the time you get down to that last gram of distillate, it'll taste real nasty because it's been burning. And so those are common complaints that people have about this large format vape device. But we spent nearly a year with finished goods doing research and development, testing various iterations, different configurations to come up with this. We have less than 0.5% failure rate on these devices, and we can't keep them in stock. We're back ordered more than $250,000 on that one SKU alone.
Well, I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. Just anecdotally speaking, for friends and family, like to get through a vape, to like have, I mean, it's almost a running joke just as to like how frequently they malfunction and don't work.
All of our products have less than a 0.5% fail rate. We have some of the lowest failure rates, at least in our state, as far as we're aware. We hear competitive offerings at 15, even 20, 25% fail rate, especially on these larger devices.
And I get that some are disposable, but like to be disposable, you have to at least use it once, right?
Yeah. You gotta deliver on the promise that you're making with the customer, or they're gonna come buy my product.
Well, so you said, you've had interest in the industry for 30 years. What's your favorite product that you've ever had?
Oh, I love that question. So my favorite edible is a brand in a brand in California called Space Gems.
Okay.
And that's just a bubble hash gummy that's made really well, really flavorful, really high quality inputs to that. And I'm more of a flower guy. I really like. There's a grower in Garberville, California called Huckleberry Farms, and I really like their flower a lot. Back when I was working for Willie's, I had the luxury of flying all over the country and choosing the flowers that we would carry under our label, and Huckleberry was an easy one. So I love that flower. And from the Spherex products, we have rosin cartridges that I really like. Those full spectrum rosin, and we work with a local hash maker called Soy Cubano. They make the rosin, and we get them in the right kind of hardware, and we sell them in cartridges. So of our products, that's my favorite product. And then we also spent about a year developing a gummy. It's a sleep gummy that's made from rosin, and it also has reishi mushrooms, which is a non-psychedelic functional mushroom that helps you to sleep. And so we replaced a lot of the CBN that you normally find in sleep products with that reishi gummy. So it helps you to fall asleep quickly, stay asleep longer. And then because we replaced a lot of the CBN with reishi, you don't feel like you got hit by a truck the next morning. You can still be functional. So I love our sleep gummies. That's the Spherex Lux mushroom gummies. So those are probably across all those. Did I miss the cat? I'm not really a beverage guy. I don't have a beverage that I like. Yeah, those are some of my favorite products, I think. Yeah.
Okay. How do you manage your supply chain? Talking about Soy Cubano, how do you manage your supply chain to make sure you can still offer quality, competitive price, and that you don't have gaps when there are market disruptions?
Yeah, it's real hard. We don't have our own cultivation, and we're probably going through between 5,000 and 7,000 pounds a month of biomass. So we like to develop long-term relationships with growers that can produce probably, I don't know, let's say 30% to 50% of that total volume. And we like to have those long-standing relationships or reliable people that we like to do business with. And then you still, no one grows enough to provide all of what we need. So we will then be active in the market, and it's basically commodity trading, albeit less sophisticated than the guys and gals who trade coffee and wheat and orange juice and stuff like that. But not that different. There's brokers that represent growers, and we have a buyer who does the sourcing and knows exactly kind of where the market is and what we can afford to spend. So that's the job, and it's a big focus for us.
Well, Ryan, I really do appreciate you taking the time today. Before we get out of here, is there anything that you want to make sure the cannabis equipment audience knows either about yourself or your work at SphereX?
No, I think we've talked a lot today. I really appreciate the opportunity. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Green Wednesday for those that celebrate, and I'm thankful to be with you today.
No, I'm thankful as well. This was a great conversation, and I really do appreciate your insight. Are you going to MJ BizCon?
I am not going to make it this year, unfortunately, but some of my colleagues will be out there. Our VP of marketing will be out there.
Okay. Well, we'll have to touch base, and we'll miss you this year. Maybe we'll catch you next year.
Another time. That sounds great. I'd love that.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You could also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. All right. For Ryan Hunter, Chief Revenue Officer of SphereX, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast, and we will see you next week.
Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.